Alright, so I did my project on the causes of World War II. World War II basically came about through the Treaty of Versailles, which was the treaty following World War I, where the victorious Allied powers met up to decide Germany's future in Paris, France, and they came out with the Treaty of Versailles, where Germany had to pay a lot of war reparations, which basically they had to give up pretty much all their military, pretty much a lot of land that they used to have before the war. They basically lost all of their nationalism. And after the Treaty of Versailles, we had the economic depression, the Great Depression, which hit in the late 1920s after the stock market crashed, and this was a worldwide thing. And it's basically what led to Hitler coming to power in 1933. Germany began to militarize during the Great Depression because everybody was focused on each other's economies, not what really Germany was doing. And Hitler secretly started to build up his army and weapons. Britain and France kind of knew about Hitler's actions, but they thought, if Germany was to grow up the military, maybe it could stop the spread of communist Russia in the eastern side of Europe. In 1936, Hitler began to enter German-speaking areas such as the Rhineland, for example, Austria, Czechoslovakia. At this point, neither France nor Britain was really prepared to go for war, so in 1936, Hitler made alliances with Italy and Japan, which we would eventually call the Axis powers during World War II. After this, we lead to the failure of appeasement, which means Neville Chamberlain he went over to Germany to meet with Hitler, to basically try to convince him, you can have the German-speaking parts of Czechoslovakia, but after that, you can't do anymore. And Chamberlain brought a piece of paper, Hitler signed it, and then he came back to London and was proclaimed a hero, thinking that they would prevent war, that this was a generation of peace, not war. Little did he know, he was very wrong. And then on September 1st, 1939, German troops invaded Poland, and Britain and France obviously immediately declared war on Germany, and World War II in Europe had begun. Another cause of the start of World War II was the failure of the League of Nations. The League of Nations was an international organization that was set up in 1919 to keep world peace. It was intended that all countries would be members, and that if there were disputes between countries, they could settle by negotiation rather than by force or war. The League of Nations was a good idea, but ultimately it was a failure. Not all the countries joined the League of Nations and had no army to prevent military aggression, such as Italy's invasion of Ethiopia and Africa, or Germany's invasion of Manchuria and China. This would result in Japan starting to militarize, and in 1931, Japan was hit badly by the economic depression, but the Japanese people lost faith in the government. So they turned to the army to find a solution to their economic problems. In order to produce more goods, Japan needed neutral and natural resources for its factories. The Japanese army invaded China, which would end up leading to the Manchuria-China attacks, which is like one of the deadliest in the world when it comes to bloodshed. Like even past the Holocaust, it did some very brutal stuff. But the Japanese army invaded China, an area rich in materials and resources. China asked for the League of Nations help, but Japan was, and all the League of Nations could do is tell Japan to stop it, but obviously Japan didn't. They ignored the League of Nations and continued to occupy China and Korea. As Japan invaded the other areas of Southeast Asia, including Vietnam and Guam and the Philippines, Japan felt like its invasion could be threatened by the United States military and attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii on December 1st, 1941, which would lead to the start of World War II in Asia. And so there you have it. That's really the 5-6 main causes of how World War II started. So I hope y'all learned something. Thank you.